and welcome to Edison Open House Transport Futures 2021. In this session, we're showcasing the work of Arrival, a company dedicated to electric vehicles. With me is its president, Avinash Rugabor. Avinash, welcome.
Thanks, Vivian, and appreciate you having us, and thanks to Edison for hosting us.
Now, just tell me a bit more about Arrival.
So, Arrival was founded in 2015. We are looking at how you can basically accelerate the transition of the current vehicle fleet to electric through best-in-class products that are at a competitive price to their fossil fuel equivalents, because that's really an inflection point for when people will shift over to electric, especially in the commercial vehicle segment that we focus on. That's the point where, if you're the fleet purchaser, whether you're a small, medium enterprise, an individual buyer, or a large company with a large fleet, when you know that you can get a better vehicle and still be green and get it at a similar price to what you would be paying for your diesel, that's to us the inflection point. And to do that, we've pioneered a lot of different technologies to enable that to happen over the last 6 years. We've invented a radical new method that designs and produces vehicles using microfactories. And these are low footprint, low capex factories that can be placed anywhere in the world. It gives us an agility to respond to change demands, and it also generates industry leading margins. And we're vertically integrated, so we develop all of the tech, the components such as the battery management system, things like the human machine interface. We do that all in-house. We've got an extremely strong IP portfolio. We have staff of over 1,900 people in the company, a majority of which are engineers. And so 90% are engineers and about half software engineers as well. So really strong technical talent. And then we've got 4 vehicles that we've announced so far, which is zero emission bus, the electric bus, which you can see behind me. We have the van, we have a large van and a small van, and we have a car, which we recently announced to be in partnership with Uber. And these, as I mentioned, priced similar to fossil fuel vehicles and having a significantly lower cost of ownership, up to 50%. And all of that hardware and software that I mentioned, that's all upgradable. But we also have a very interesting technology that we developed by replacing the panels, which are typically steel, with a in-house developed composite material that is fully recyclable. All of the offcuts can be cycled back into the process. The panels themselves, if they get damaged, they can be taken off and recycled back in. But most importantly, it's more durable and lighter than steel, as it decreases maintenance costs and it increases the lifespan of the vehicle. And, just to go back onto that microfactory, those are hyperlocal. They can really be deployed anywhere. And this really sets us apart from what the industry has been doing. As you're probably aware, Vivian, right now, it's really large factories out very far, really high capex, and you require hundreds of thousands of vehicles to be made to generate any sort of profitability. We've really just broken that whole approach and turned it upside down, where we do small microfactories that are low capex, that are each individually profitable, and allows us to really deploy those in parallel anywhere around the world. And finally, but most importantly, we've got strong demand for our vehicles. We've seen our LOIs go up year over year. We've got a 1.2 billion in orders from, which includes up to 10,000 vans from UPS. And we have amazing culture and talent, a really fantastic group of people from all around the world. And that's how, we've been able to question a 100-year-old industry and bring so much change to it.
And I know you needs to make your investor disclaimer.
Yes, I'd like to remind everyone that our remarks may contain forward-looking statements, and these are subject to various risks and uncertainties and reflect our current expectations based on information currently available to us. And although we believe that these expectations are reasonable, we undertake no obligation to revise any statements to reflect changes that occur after today. And for further information, please refer to our website and our filings with the SEC.
That's a fantastic story, and there's a lot there to unpack. So I want to drill into a couple of areas in more detail. But first of all, is there anything specific in terms of investor news that you want to bring us up to date on?
I think in our most recent Q1 update, we we mentioned that we're making extremely positive operational progress towards our key milestones. We have our bus, which is actually going into production in Q4 of this year. We have 4 microfactories already, 2 in the US and 1 in UK and 1 in Spain. Those vehicle programs will all be in market by the end of 2023. So as I mentioned, the bus end of this year, the van and large van in the second half of next year, and the car in the second half of 2023. So it's a really exciting sort of product roadmap and launch roadmap that we've got, and we've been making really strong progress to that. And as I mentioned, the demand of the vehicles has really been impressive. And it's based on what we said earlier about the fact that these are best-in-class vehicles, but they're at similar price to what you would go out and get a fossil fuel vehicle today.
Let's first of all look at your ambition in the EV market. I mean, clearly you are a highly disruptive company. What's the grand plan?
So, we often talk about ourselves as a tech company, but if you really look at what Arrival's doing, we're a technology company, we're an OEM, we're a advanced manufacturing company, we're an ESG company, and obviously we produce electric vehicles. When you think about all of that, to your point, we are highly disruptive. And the view here is, if you walk around the world today and you look at the mobility and transportation systems that we've built in many cities, not so much London, which is actually well connected and quite advanced in that sense. But if you look at many other places around the world, you don't have to go very far to get to cities where you're seeing diesel vehicles pumping out fumes, sitting in traffic majority of the day. And then, people, we've already seen that the issue with clean air already affecting people's health and well-being in cities. We've really created a system that, if you were to look at it today, it really doesn't make any sense. And if you think about where technology has come to, we're still making the vehicles in the ways we were doing 100 years ago. Now, it's great and it works, but is it the way you would do it if you had access to what we know of today, both environmentally and from technology such as software, robotics, the advance of battery and range of other techs like materials, like the composite I was mentioning. So our ambition is to be the market leader that really questions what's come before, what's worked, what hasn't, rethink it, re-engineer it, and drive change that is good for the environment, it's good for people living in the cities that we serve, and to, on a business side, generate those industry-leading margins, which are good for our shareholders. And that's really, if I can sum it up, it's, creating change that's good for people, business, and the planet.
So that triple bottom line that's so familiar to in ESG. So your key features of your business model are clearly, these micro factories. And from what you were saying already, having vehicles that perform the same as conventional diesel or fossil fuel vehicles, but are actually better and cheaper.
Yeah, I would say they even perform better. One of the great things about the commercial vehicle segment going electric is, obviously with electric vehicles, there's instant torque. So you have this ability to move that vehicle, which is full of cargo, a lot more efficiently than a typical fossil fuel vehicle. You also have the ability to reduce your operating costs to what we're discussing earlier. And that's done in a myriad of ways. So you've got the fact that the vehicle itself is lighter than its counterpart. We don't just take the diesel engine out and electrify it. It's actually designed from the ground up. It's a lighter vehicle. It has better range efficiency, so you're saving there. You can have a higher payload and a higher cargo volume for the same vehicle size. So if you imagine you're looking at a similar price vehicle, it's cleaner, it performs better, it's connected. So all of the data goes to the cloud, and as an operator, whether it's the bus or van or ride sharing, you can really, because we do all of the components ourselves, you can understand the health of that vehicle at any time. And again, in the commercial segment, that's crucial because you're always managing uptime. When will I need to charge? How's the vehicle performing? When should I bring it in as early as possible for maintenance so it doesn't have an issue on the field? So this method has really produced vehicles that is so differentiated to what's going on anywhere else. And the microfactory itself is differentiated because it's agile, and it allows us to place it, we mentioned 4 already, but it allows us to place them anywhere where we see that demand. And I just want to touch on that. It hires local people, it's paying the local taxes, and it's people are building the vehicles that are being used in their local community. And if you think about where that can go as a business, it means you've got a low capex model that pays itself back much more rapidly. Each individual microfactory is essentially a product, and it produces electric vehicles that then pay back faster. And then you've built agility into the system. The microfactory itself is flexible if you want to change the vehicles that are coming out of there. And you're able to work with the cities to say, back to the earlier point was when you walk around, you ask yourself, well, how did this happen? You're actually able to work with the cities and communities and say, well, what should the ideal transportation ecosystem look like? And how can we build that with new products and services? And I think that's extremely exciting, because the old model just cannot work like that. When you're building hundreds of thousands of vehicles somewhere and you're having to ship those all the way around the world, you end up with, the same bus in London that you have in, Mumbai, and you have it in California, and you have it in Johannesburg, but people move around very differently. And to me, it doesn't make sense. And that's what we've built.
So you're moving it really, as far as the fleet owner is concerned, commercial or public transport, from a why to a why not. Why not replace with something like this?
Exactly.
Why do I have to replace with the conventional diesel? And there's a huge public push for this, as well as a commercial push, I think, now. Tell me about your vehicle ranges. I think you said you had 4. Can you take me through those? I mean, obviously, there's a very beautiful bus that you're sitting in now.
Yeah, so like I often say, I never thought I'd say a bus was cool until I saw the Arrival bus, and it's a really impressive vehicle. Before we get into the range, to the vehicle products, I just want to step back to talk about how we put those vehicles together, because I think that will really give your viewers an understanding of where we can go with the technologies we've built. So I mentioned, we do our own components, and we do our own composite materials, and we've got our own software, and we build it all in a microfactory. Those technologies are reused in every vehicle that we've got. So if you think of the bus, the van, the large van, and the car, they're using our same battery modules, the same human machine interface, the same inverters, DC-DC. All those components are the same in all the vehicles. And then we simply change obviously the platform, the chassis, depending on the size and weight and crash requirements. And then the composites are reused again, just in different forms. We can shape that into whatever form we want. So it's the same technology, it's produced in the same way. We just simply adapt it for whatever vehicle that we have. And when we show a bus, a 12 plus ton vehicle, very large vehicle, and you show a van, which is kind of a mid-sized vehicle, and you show a car, which is obviously a much smaller vehicle, and you can produce all of those in microfactories, what we're showing by doing is that the microfactory model is flexible to build any type of vehicle. So when you think
you've kind of got a Lego brick. Not to trivialize what you're doing, but
exactly.
it's a kind of Lego brick model that the Lego bricks are the same, and you just use them to build something
exactly
bigger or
right.
smaller.
So it's not just that we're building best-in-class vehicles. It's that we're building the systems that build best-in-class vehicles, and that's really a crucial point here. We've set up layers of technologies that come together to be able to produce whatever vehicle we want. Now, we started with the bus, the van, the large van, and the car for very specific reasons, right? The bus really is an industry that is, there's public pressure, there's also government pressure, and there's real community need for that product. We need people to be using public transportation all around the world. It's a really important point. And it's something that really hasn't seen the latest in technologies, right? We want to make the bus cool again. We want people to feel safe, secure, and want to travel on that bus, whilst at the same time reducing the cost so that the operators can have a sustainable business and we can get buses out to all parts of the community. So the bus is the first vehicle that we're launching. we've got a very lightweight bus, in some cases, up to 5 tons lighter than our competitors, which is significant, as you can imagine. We have a fully flat floor, which is easy for service and maintenance, which is a real crucial point when we think about how we design vehicles. We get the operators in and we talk to them about what are the pain points that they have, and we design that into the vehicle. So when the floor is fully flat, it's much easier to clean. Our seats come off the side. I don't think you can see it in the picture, but they come off the sidewall. It means the floor can be cleaned really easily. There's no really nooks and crannies that you have to really dig into to keep it clean. The seats slide on and off, so for a COVID environment, you can really adapt the seating. And we've got this beautiful skylight that runs up the top. It's just a really human-centered design to how we take the bus, how we created the bus. The van, that's predominantly for cargo vans. So that's something, for example, for UPS to be carrying passengers. I've already mentioned some of the advantages on the payload and the weights, but that's also something that we've designed with the operators in mind, how they step in and out every day. How can we reduce that to make sure there's less fatigue on the driver? When you go into a lot of these vehicles, unfortunately, and this is similar to the car actually, anybody who's ridden in a ride-sharing vehicle will see how the drivers have to put up phones everywhere, and like nothing's integrated, nothing's coordinated, because those vehicles weren't built for that use case. Whereas for us, we're building it with that right up from the ground up. And then we've also built into all of those vehicles the ability to upgrade. So if tomorrow, similar to your Lego point, so tomorrow, let's say there's a new battery technology, we can upgrade the vehicles with that. If 5G comes out, we can change the human machine interface, with a 6G, 7G, wherever we go with that, we can keep that vehicle up to speed. So, it's not just the upfront selling price or the clean air, it's lower maintenance costs, it's upgradability, it's better, let's call them product attributes, in terms of cargo and payload, but it's also the ability to keep that vehicle, in use longer by upgrading it over time. So it's really a transformation of the business model, and enables us in the sort of medium term. It's not just direct sales, it's all the upsides of new business models that you can create around that methodology.
And that's actually a move in the direction of net zero, because of course, there's a lot of carbon involved in that in manufacture. So let me just, and briefly, if you would, just tell me what's the size of your current order book, and can you give us some indication of the total available market for each of these kind of vehicles?
Yeah, so in the van and bus market make up about 430 billion in terms of its TAMs. It's an extremely large market. It's growing. The van market in particular is growing. Obviously, you've got COVID, etc., pushing that. The car, there's over 30 odd million ride-sharing vehicles out there. We know that they need to move electric. We know a lot of folks like our partner in Uber have announced that they want to move to fully electric and green vehicles. So it's right in line with that trend. And sorry, what was the first? The order book. We're not revealing LOIs because we want to make sure that, in this industry, you can sort of wrongly use LOIs. We want to make sure we're presenting the company's demand in the right way. It's gone up tremendously year on year and quarter on quarter. We don't see any issue with demand, but we prefer to be announcing further long form agreements rather than LOIs. But needless to say, that's going very well. We've announced a trial with First Bus, with First Group here in the UK. That's going to happen later in the fall. UPS will be doing tests in the summer. So yeah, all of the demand side I think is extremely good.
And what about deliveries?
So bus end of this year. In terms of start of production, there'll obviously be buses running on the road already in the fall, as I mentioned. And then van, second half of next year, we'll start production. So, but obviously before that, there'll be trials and work going on with vehicles that are approved for the road use.
And what about financial projections?
So over the next few years, folks can go in and look at our investor information. We're not revising anything. We most recently did send out our projections. We believe that this whole market is shifting to electric, the whole market. We've seen that not just because of government pressure, but the industry tailwinds are really strong from public, as you said. But you know, we've even seen the traditional folks announce that they're moving to electric. So imagine with sort of the pace that you see the traditional folks move, I think it shows that everybody understands the future is electric here, and other zero emission technologies like hydrogen. So we're very confident in our financial projections. And as mentioned, we don't see any issues on demand. So right now, the company is just focused on executing the start of production for the bus later this year.
Now, we're asking everybody this that we've interviewed as part of this Future Transport series. But Avinash, and briefly, if you would, what's your vision for the future of transport, say in 10 years' time?
So definitely zero emission. I think we are basically we as Arrival are creating a world where we like to say, you know, Arrival's not building a vehicle for you, you will be building your vehicle. So it's community-based, it's sustainable, it's matched to the needs of your local community, and you are helping us design and build the vehicles for you, for your city. And you know, what I really want to make sure we do is also make it fully sustainable, and that is a crucial point around the world. And the last part of our vision is it's the same everywhere, not just for the UK, Europe, or US, or you know, the OECD countries. It's everywhere. The whole world has to shift this way, and we want to see microfactories all around the world in locations you wouldn't even think about it right now, and moving the world to a more sustainable, greener transportation future.
It's a fantastic vision. And tell me one final little thing. Electric buses, will they have some kind of sound attached to them so that a bus can't creep up on you?
Yeah, we actually have we have a little sound team in our company actually, and they're working on exactly that. And they will, because obviously they're silent, right? So I think all of the vehicles will have that, including the van and the car and other products that we may do as something to help the local community know that this thing's approaching.
So there you are. That's another new business development of sounds for electric vehicles, so that you know that they're creeping up on you. Avinash, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and very best of luck with this very disruptive and impressive company.
Thank you very much, Vivian.